Time for Focus then, an investigation for you in today's Focus involving allegations of corruption and exploitation. We're taking you to Ukraine, in fact, exactly 3 years since Viktor Yanukovych was inaugurated as president. Today, he's going to meet European counterparts in Brussels, hoping to make progress towards signing an historic association agreement with the European Union. But Europe's still alarmed at developments in Ukraine. The opposition leader, Yulia Tymoshenko, is in jail. Last year's elections considered deeply flawed, and organised crime appears to be rife. Nowhere this more apparent than Viktor Yanukovych's home region, the Donbass. Here, a huge illegal coal mining industry is developed, unhindered by police, and many Ukrainians suspect that members of the president's family have had their fingers in the pie. Well, Gulliver Cragg travelled to the mining village of Severny to investigate.
Coal trucks still ply the muddy streets of Severny, but the state mine here barely functions anymore. Instead, wildcat mining is rife, sometimes directly underneath the village.
So here they extracted all the coal they could. They abandoned it. You can see what they left. It's the same story on those streets down there.
A group of unhappy residents takes us to see a kopанках, as the illegal mines are known here, in the woods just outside the village. They'd contacted a blogger, Denis Kazansky, to help them draw attention to the problem. We find the mine abandoned, but apparently not for long.
It's just been temporarily closed because we can see the cable going into the ground still in place. If they haven't taken that down, it means they plan to work here again.
2 guys died in a mine like this one the other day. That must be why this one's closed now, temporarily.
With legal mines shedding workers all over this region, the kопанки are often the only option for young men to earn some money. Valentin, a retired state miner, observes their conditions with pity.
They have nothing, no pension plans. They don't get any kind of holidays. And working with drills, these boys are going to ruin their joints.
Not far away, we hear the sounds of coal being poured into a truck. Another illegal mine, this one on a larger scale. The miners refuse to speak to us and call their boss, indicating that we should get out of there quickly. As we beat a retreat, I ask one of the villagers who she thinks is profiting from this business.
Who's pocketing the money? Well, the owner, and then who else? Probably every official, from the regional administration on down to the local police.
Around 10% of the coal mined in Ukraine is mined illegally. The phenomenon started as a hand-to-mouth struggle for survival after state mines closed down in the 1990s. Now, though, much of it is run by organised crime. And according to recent research, the trail goes higher than just the regional administration. In fact, it may go right up to Alexander Yanukovych, the son of Ukraine's president.
Coal mined in the Kopanki is a lot cheaper than coal mined legally, because they don't pay taxes, they use primitive technology and so on. The question is how to sell this illegally mined coal. One way is via coal enrichment plants. And who owns these enrichment plants? Firms linked to the president's son.
Alexander Yanukovych denies profiting from illegal mining. Yet in the regional capital, Donetsk, 3 companies with the exact same phone number as one of his companies won contracts to supply power stations with coal last year. Union leader Nikolai Volenko is convinced that these intermediaries are getting coal from illegal mines.
The legitimate mines can't sell their coal. They've got a 6 million ton surplus. Yet in the power stations, there is coal. What more do you need?
With power stations running on illegally mined coal while legal mines wither and die, unemployment rises and tax revenues fall. Whoever ultimately benefits from this situation, it is not the Ukrainian people.
Well, Gulliver joins us now, in fact, from Kiev. Gulliver, just tell us a little bit more about what happened after you fled that second mine you saw. Did you have any more contact at all with those bosses you mentioned in the report?
Yes, we saw them as we were walking into the village. They were in a car. They didn't get out of the car or speak to us, and we went on our way. But then a little while later, when we were leaving the village by car, they followed us in 2 cars and were obviously trying to get us to stop or to scare us. I think really they just wanted to make sure that we definitely were leaving the area, because when we turned into a town a little later on, we lost them and went back to Donetsk. But Denis Kazansky, the blogger who you saw in the report, wrote about it on his blog a bit later on, and it was reported in the local media we ended up getting a reaction from the police and via the police from the bosses, who said that they had just wanted to show us some documents proving that they had the rights to that land. That seems to me a very unlikely explanation, since they could have simply spoken to us when we walked past them when we were on foot. And also, this is absolutely not the first time that journalists have been followed in this way after they've been trying to report on the illegal mines. I mean, clearly the owners of these mines don't really appreciate journalists snooping around, which is not very surprising.
And Gulliver, the allegations that we saw in the report against Alexander Yanukovych, the son of the president, Viktor Yanukovych there, I mean, he's a man who got rich very quickly, didn't he? Tell us a little bit more about him.
Yes, Alexander Yanukovych's fortune and influence in Ukraine are increasing extremely rapidly. He's at the head of a group of companies called Mako, which was valued by PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2011 at $212 million. I'd imagine its assets have increased since then because it won quite a few public contracts in the last 12 months. But I should stress, none of these are to do with coal mining. Mako officially does building work and financial services. It's all these small companies that often spring up and disappear quite quickly with completely opaque ownership. Often they don't have a website or any physical address, and a lot of investigative journalists and businessmen in the Donetsk region are convinced that these companies are linked to Alexander Yanukovych and his associates. It's important to stress, though, that no one's yet found any 100% concrete proof of this, but speculation is rife, we should say. Also, Alexander Yanukovych is at the centre of the group called The Family, which is not just the biological family of Viktor Yanukovych, but his closest circle. And their influence in Ukraine is massively influencing. After the elections in October, a new government was named in December, and lots of the new ministers, often many of them under 40, are close associates of Alexander Yanukovych and generally people very close to the Yanukovych family.
And Gulliver, we know, a bit like in Russia, oligarchs, or you might know them as business magnates, have a lot of power in Ukraine there. They're not all members of the president's family, though, are they? Far from it. How have they been reacting to this alleged behaviour by the Yanukovych clan?
Well, this is what's very interesting because, of course, the increased influence of the close Yanukovych circle is often to the detriment of the influence of these oligarchic groups. And what's particularly interesting is that Rinat Akhmetov, Ukraine's richest man, who's from Donetsk and has up till now been a pretty staunch supporter of Viktor Yanukovych, well, he is the owner of a number of legal mines. And this business of illegal mines is absolutely not in his interests. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how he reacts and whether or not he continues to support Viktor Yanukovych through to the 2015 elections. There are some indications that he may not, but it's early days yet. Nobody said anything officially.
And Gulliver, as we mentioned at the top there, Ukraine's relationship with the European Union central today. They're meeting today, aren't they? What's likely to come out of that?
Well, today, José Manuel Barroso and Herman Van Rompuy are going to remind Viktor Yanukovych once again of their conditions for signing this association agreement. In particular, they've said they want progress on the issue of selective justice, which is mainly, of course, the issue of Yulia Tymoshenko's incarceration. Also on democracy, correcting the errors made during the October general election. And they want to see progress on those issues by May. Considering we've seen so little progress so far, it seems unlikely those conditions will be met, which puts the European Union in a very difficult position when it comes to deciding whether to sign this agreement in November.
Gulliver, thanks very much. Gulliver Cragg in Kiev there joining us for today's focus here on False Flag Cat. Do stay with us.